Welcome to Oracle Eyes. The beginning of August was rocked by an unexpected move by Ukraine. As part of operations that began on last Tuesday, about 1,000 Ukrainian troops made a deep incursion into Russia's Kursk region, taking control of an estimated 17 square miles. By opening a new front against Russia in the Belgorod region, the Ukrainian armed forces have once again stunned the Kremlin. This comes after the Ukrainian armed forces launched an unexpected offensive in the Kursk region. A video was captured by the 252nd Assault Battalion of the Territorial Defense of Ukraine today from the village of Poroz, which is located in the Graveron district. The threshold of the Community Art Center, which is located in the middle of the town, was the location where the video was shot. Military analysts have established that the video was recorded approximately 1.5 kilometers away from the border with Russia. Participants in the film include soldiers from the Georgian Legion as well as members of the 252nd Assault Battalion, Shturm, of the Territorial Defense Unit of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. 5 troops can be seen in the video holding the flags of both Georgia and Ukraine for the respective countries. This particular aspect sheds light on the methods that Ukraine and its allies want to employ in order to establish a new front on Russian territory immediately across the border. According to the videos and photographs that have been uploaded on social media, Ukraine is allegedly conducting military operations in this region, and they are also planning to conduct operations of a similar nature elsewhere. This demonstrates Ukraine's goal to push Russian defense lines in the region and provides evidence of the country's developing military plan. Specifically, the engagement of the Georgian Legion sheds light on the worldwide nature of the fight, as well as the manner in which Ukraine is collecting support from a variety of sources outside of its borders. A report on the current situation in the village of Poroz was provided by Vyacheslav Gladkov, the governor of the Belgorod regional government. According to Gladkov, the entrances to Poroz have been temporarily closed as a result of the security measures that have been implemented in the region. A comprehensive investigation into the issue will be conducted by law enforcement officials. There is conflicting information. On the one hand, we all saw the video shot in front of the village community art center. But on the other hand, residents who have just left say they did not see the enemy or hear any gunfire, the governor stated in his statement. Additionally, at the same time, the National Anti-Terrorism Committee of Russia made an announcement regarding the beginning of anti-terrorist operations in the regions of Belgorod, Bryansk, and Kursk. The Ukrainian army is continuing its assault on the territory of the Russian Federation, notwithstanding the declarations that representatives of the Russian government have made. There has been a new attempt by Ukrainian forces to violate the border in the Belovsky area of the Kursk region of Russia, according to Russian military correspondents and popular Z Telegram channels. These reports state that Ukrainian forces reached the Belovsky region, which is located south of Sudzha, and advanced several dozen kilometers near the settlement of Belaya. As a result, residents are becoming more concerned, and the level of panic is increasing. As a result of the unpredictability of the situation and the growing tensions, residents are demanding that they be provided with clear information and direction on the evacuation procedure. With the environment in the region becoming increasingly tense, local inhabitants are becoming increasingly concerned for their own safety, and it is necessary to make preparations for the possibility of an evacuation. It has come to light that Alexei Smirnov, who is serving as the interim governor of the Kursk region, has given the governor of the Belovsky district the instruction to expedite the implementation of the decision made by the Operations Center about the evacuation of inhabitants. In the meantime, Russian war correspondents have reported that the primary group of Ukrainian soldiers stationed in the Sudzha region is increasing their level of activity in an effort to seize the initiative and continue their advance. According to the accounts of Yuri Podolyaka, a Russian combat correspondent, there is currently no information that can be considered authentic regarding the fresh boundary violation that occurred in the Kursk region. On the other hand, he mentioned that there are reports that have been verified that Ukrainian forces have infiltrated Makhnovka, which suggests that Russia may lose control of Sudzha by the end of the day on August 11th. It was also mentioned by Podolyaka that there was evidence that indicated that troops were observed in the neighborhood of Hyry. He underlined that these were not tiny gangs of saboteurs, but rather infantrymen who were armed with heavy military weapons. In the event that this is accurate, it would imply that Ukrainian forces have completely surrounded Russian troops in Sudzha and are establishing a base for further push to the south and east. While this is going on, the Kursk region is reported to be experiencing the sounds of severe explosions. According to remarks made by the governor of the Kursk region, Alexei Smirnov, as well as claims made by local sources, the explosions that were heard in the city are connected to air defense operations. These explosions caused a residential building to catch fire, which resulted in significant collateral damage to the structure. In a prior statement, Governor Smirnov had said that the region was facing a threat from missile systems. After being intercepted by Russian air defense systems, a missile that was purportedly fired by Ukraine damaged a residential structure in the city. This was the most recent explosion that took place. This led to a fire, which in turn caused significant damage to the building. Within a short amount of time, emergency personnel arrived at the scene and made an effort to put the fire under control. As a result of the incident, 7 ambulances were sent to the location, as reported by the Baza News channel. Additionally, fires broke out in the yard of the building as well as in vehicles. During the incident, footage was captured that showed a portion of the building collapsing and smoke rising. There were films that were shared on Russian Telegram channels that showed the dramatic moment of the explosion as well as the aftermath in great detail. In these movies, the harshness of the air defense operations and the effects they had are demonstrated. It was declared by the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations that rescue operations are still ongoing in the fire, that 15 people have been safely rescued from the building, and that a total of 30 people have been evacuated. Among the persons that were rescued and evacuated, there were 5 individuals who need medical treatment. Nevertheless, there have been no casualties reported as of yet. There was no damage to the load-bearing structures of the building that was affected by the fire. Nonetheless, the facade of the building, which extended from the first story to the 9th floor, sustained significant wear and tear. In spite of the fact that this demonstrates that the building's structural integrity was, for the most part, intact, the dread and anxiety that were brought on by the tragedy are still present. If Ukraine were to intervene in Russia, how would this affect the ongoing conflict? The unexpected onslaught that Ukraine launched against the Kursk region has brought to light Russia's intelligence shortcomings, as well as significant holes in border security. Consequently, this presents a significant challenge to the Kremlin's long-standing narrative that a triumph for Russia is unavoidable. In an effort to affect public opinion in Europe and the United States, the Kremlin has been making the argument that Western backing for Ukraine is pointless and that Ukrainian resistance is pointless. The most recent events, however, demonstrate that Ukraine is not only capable of putting up a fight, but also of conducting successful military operations. Despite the fact that Russia has achieved some headway in eastern Ukraine, this Ukrainian onslaught may push the Kremlin to reevaluate its repression in the Donbass or to the north of Kharkiv. The Russian government will be forced to reevaluate its military policy within Ukraine if Ukrainian forces are successful in constructing positions that are capable of being defended on Russian soil. Due to this new reality, the possibility of a ceasefire being implemented in place may become less appealing to the administration of Vladimir Putin. As a result of these events, the ineffectiveness of Kremlin propaganda is once again brought to light, as is the critical importance of Western backing for Ukraine. These kinds of strategic maneuvers by Ukraine have the potential to alter the trajectory of the war by drawing greater support and attention from the international community. The fact that this is the case highlights not just the defensive strength of Ukraine, but also its offensive power, providing it with a substantial psychological and tactical advantage in its fight against Russia's military initiatives. The unexpected attack that Ukraine carried out in the Kursk region brought to light vulnerabilities in Russia's internal security, as well as deficiencies in governance. In the same way that the Wagner Group, which was commanded by Yevgeny Prigozhin, staged a brief insurrection. This attack makes it very evident that the contemporary Russian system of administration is founded on fear and corruption, and that it falls short of expectations. An occurrence that shows a situation in which even Russian official media have been forced to speak out about the severity of the conflict and the evacuation of the population is reflected in the fact that the incident occurred. Details that demonstrate how the Russian military and civilian leadership were taken aback by this unexpected attack are being reported by Telegram channels that are sympathetic to the Kremlin's. There is a historical connection to this event. Similar to George Washington's expedition over the Delaware River in 1776, the Kursk operation of Ukraine exemplifies audacity and tenacity in the face of the adversary. The actions that Washington took at the time represented a significant turning point in the American War of Independence. These actions were also essential for maintaining morale among the men and garnering political support. Additionally, the conduct taken by Ukraine can be interpreted as a demonstration of both cunning and bravery in the face of a formidable adversary, and it may have strategic significance. The widespread dissemination of stories regarding this attack, which included films of Russian soldiers surrendering to Ukrainian forces, served as a significant boost to the morale of both the Ukrainian military and the general populace. Consequently, the triumph of Ukraine was a terrible demonstration to the ruling elite of Russia regarding the vulnerability of the country. In particular, the Kursk nuclear power plant is within the reach of Ukrainian forces, which makes this operation more urgent and increases the possible risks that it may include. The attack also indicates how successfully the leadership of Kiev has incorporated elements of political psychological warfare into its military plan, as well as how determined it is to continue doing so. In addition to highlighting Kiev's capacity to affect the dynamics on the battlefield, this strategic decision by Ukraine is regarded as an essential aspect that has the potential to impact the trajectory of the war. As a result of the Kursk raid, discussion has arisen regarding the strategic goals of Ukraine and the role it plays in the opinion of the world community. When it comes to discussions, there are some Ukrainians who believe that it is an attempt to take Russian territory that may be used as a bargaining chip. There is a possibility, however, that these interpretations are not entirely founded in the actuality of the circumstance. There is a significant gap between raids and an attack that is carried out on a large scale. Being able to hold territory in a sustainable manner provides a significantly different set of operational and strategic challenges than capturing territory. It is possible that the primary purpose of this operation for Ukraine is to demonstrate to its international partners the military capacity and efficacy of the Ukrainian military on the ground. The fact that Kiev has been waiting for aid from the United States for several months, despite the fact that military specialists have described this as very likely, highlights the critical significance of such spectacular operations. In addition, the unwillingness of nations such as the United States and Germany to supply Ukraine with more advanced weaponry for the purpose of carrying out operations against strategic targets deep within Russia weakens Ukraine's hand and restricts it to activities of this nature. He underlines that the attack on Kursk ought to act as a reminder to Western policymakers of the probability that Ukraine would emerge victorious in the conflict. Operations of this nature that are successful demonstrate that Ukraine possesses not only defensive capabilities, but also offensive capabilities that are effective. The message that is conveyed by this is that Ukraine is capable of winning this war if Western countries provide Ukraine with the necessary support and back its victory. In light of this, the Kursk raid and other similar operations carried out by the Ukraine are designed to achieve two goals. First, to acquire strategic advantages on the ground. Second, to acquire a favorable position in the international arena in terms of support and resources. It is widely acknowledged that these activities are significant variables that have the potential to influence the long-term trajectory of the conflict. Furthermore, they play an essential part in Ukraine's military and diplomatic maneuvers. The question is, what exactly is going on the battlefield in Ukraine? The Ukrainian army is continuing to push forward in the Kursk and Belgorod districts, while at the same time, it is continuing to struggle against the pressure that Russia is applying on the battlefield. The most recent information from the General Staff indicates that there were 114 incidents of fighting that took place on Ukrainian soil in the past 24 hours. It is particularly noteworthy that the Pokrovsk direction has emerged as a front where the level of resistance and the intensity of clashes have both increased. The Ukrainian armed forces were successful in repelling 10 separate assaults launched by the adversary during the day in the direction of Kupiansk. In particular, the defense line that was established in the areas of Sinkivka, Berestove, Hlushkivka, and Stelmachivka was successful in halting the advance of the occupying forces. This scenario is significantly more tense on the Lyman front than it already was. A total of 17 assaults launched by the occupying forces were successfully repelled by Ukrainian troops in the woodland regions of Nevske, Makivka, Terny, and Serebryanske. The densely wooded terrain in these regions makes it more difficult to engage in combat and to execute strategic movements. 7 assaults by the adversary were repelled by the defense troops in the direction of Siversk, specifically in the regions of Bilohorivka, Spurna, and Vimka. In recent times, these regions have emerged as one of the most crucial sites on the front line. The situation was defined by the fact that 11 separate assault attempts by enemy troops were stopped in the districts of Bilohora, Ivanivske, and Chasiv Yar. This was the situation in the direction of Kramatorsk. The majority of these conflicts took place in the vicinity of Chasiv Yar, which is a region that holds a significant amount of strategic importance. The adversary launched 8 assaults on the communities of Pivnichne, Zalizny, Druzhba, New York, and Toretsk, which were located on the Toretsk front. Throughout the course of the day, these regions were the target of 9 air raids, and the defense forces exerted a great deal of effort to keep the enemy from making further progress. In the direction of Pokrovsk, the situation is considered to be considerably more grave. A total of 38 attacks from the adversary were defeated by the defenders, the majority of which were directed on the communities of Zhelan, Hrodivka, and Vozdvizhenka. The conflicts that took place in these regions were the most intense on the front line. Attacks from the adversary became more intense at Krasnohorivka, Georgivka, Paraskovivka, Karlivka, and Kostyantinivka, all of which are located in the direction of Kharkiv. It was 9 times that the occupying forces attempted to break through our defense line in these locations, but they were unsuccessful each time. Vovchansk is still seeing intense battle, and Ukrainian forces are making sluggish but steady progress in the direction of the city. The Russian military has made an official announcement that they have adopted a defensive stance in response to the possibility that Ukrainian forces will seek to bring down Russian fortifications located to the north of the city zone. The majority of sources concur that Russian forces have totally retreated from their attempts to create a stronghold in the forested area south of the river, immediately opposite the aggregate factory. This is despite the fact that different sources of map updates have slightly been inconsistent with one another. There is a group of Ukrainian soldiers that can be seen walking along the path of the bridge just to the west of the wooded area, in geolocated photographs that were only recently uploaded. The movement of the Ukrainians, which suggests that there are no Russian forces in the vicinity, is characterized by a lack of evident worry. In recent statements to the media, Vitaly Sarantsev, the spokesman for the Ukrainian Kharkiv detachment of forces, stated that a small detachment of Russian troops was blocked on the area of the mass facility. This information pertains to the mass facility itself. According to the spokesperson, the number of Russian personnel who are currently confined within the communal facility is steadily reducing, with an estimated 40 servicemen still being held captive. Despite the fact that they are able to get modest supplies of food and ammo carried by drones, they are entirely blocked and unable to escape the area. Sarantsev made the observation that the location of these soldiers is separated from the primary positions held by the Russian forces. This is due to the fact that the Ukrainian military operates all of the access routes leading to the facility. There has been an increase in the number of first-person view drone strike operations on the aggregate factory in recent days. Footage that has been geolocated reveals that first-person view drones made several efforts to break through the facility's standing buildings and explode explosives inside of them. Although the movie demonstrates that the drones were successful in some instances, in other instances, Russian soldiers were able to shoot them down just before they reached their targets. According to a number of observers, the rapid surge in Ukrainian activity at the plant, which includes the novel ground drone strike and drone operations that were disclosed a few days ago, implies that the commencement of a Ukrainian cleanup operation across the entire facility area is immediately approaching. There have been reports of Russians attempting to seize positions in several high-rise buildings on the northern and eastern perimeters of the Citadel region. However, it has been reported that Ukrainians are advancing on nearby streets to the south and southeast. This is in relation to the Citadel area. The Ukrainian zone of authority in the region is expanded as a result of this, and Russian efforts to establish a connection with the aggregates plant are put in even greater jeopardy. This leads one to believe that the Russians may have given up on the aggregate plant for good. The next best option for them would be to build a stronghold in one of the fortress positions in order to prevent a complete collapse of their fortifications in the northern part of Vovchansk. On the other hand, the most significant development came from official dispatches from the Russian army. At the beginning of August, official announcements from the Russian Northern Forces Group began describing their actions in Vovchansk as defense against a Ukrainian force that was numerically superior to their own. This shift in narrative is seen by some observers as preparation for a big counteroffensive by the Ukrainian military, or possibly a possible departure from crucial regions of Vovchansk. It is important to note that Russian sources have repeated on multiple times that they have evidence of the ongoing buildup of Ukrainian forces on the Kharkiv front. This is something that should be taken into consideration. Recent publications by military analysts using open-source databases on geographical positions over a period of 1 month support Ukraine's sluggish but progressive advance in northern Vovchansk. These publications confirm all of the information presented above about the previous statements. In light of the fact that Russian forces will soon be able to only aim to maintain their positions in the northern portion of the city, above the fortress line, they come to the conclusion that the situation is probably irreversible for them. In spite of the persistent Russian artillery, thermobaric ammunition, and sliding bomb strikes that were targeted at undermining Ukrainian logistics in their efforts to supply the forces in Vovchansk, it was found to be useful to have a better understanding of the terrain in Ukraine as well as the geographical possibilities that were available in the region. As a result of the availability of several routes and crossings, the Ukrainians were able to keep and even strengthen their superiority over the Russians in terms of both troops and equipment. Overall, the Russian retreat from positions south of the river was a direct result of the success that Ukraine had in maintaining and increasing the supply of soldiers and equipment in Vovchansk. As a result of the failure of efforts to connect up with the aggregate plant and the gradual but steady advance of Ukrainian troops towards retaking the city, it appears that Russian forces have been unable to make any headway for a considerable amount of time and are now attempting to withdraw and enter a defensive mode. Recent statements made by Russian officials indicate that the current situation in the Vovchansk region appears to be moving in the direction of a potential settlement. This might be attainable with the implementation of a strategic evacuation strategy, particularly along the elevated terrain to the north of Vovchansk. This maneuver would put the city in a position that is more defendable, providing Russian forces with a tactical advantage and changing the space in which the battle is now taking place. An important strategic challenge has been presented to the Russian leadership by the most recent Ukrainian operation, which originated in Sumy Oblast and entered Russian territory. There is a possibility that this will result in the Northern Group redistributing resources that were initially designated for the Kharkiv front in Russia. Because of the action taken by Ukraine, the Russian command might be compelled to temporarily withdraw its forces from Vovchansk and reorganize them. It is possible that this will have a substantial impact on Russia's current military deployment and operating strategy located in the region. In spite of the fact that Russia's decision to withdraw from Vovchansk alters the military equilibrium in the region, it also provides Ukraine with an opportunity to expand its military capabilities. While Russian forces are temporarily weakened, Ukrainian forces have the opportunity to take advantage of this process of regrouping and attempt to make strategic advances during this period of decreased strength. In order for Ukraine to solidify its advance in the region and acquire further land, this could be a crucial period for the country. In conclusion, the departure of Russia from Vovchansk and the subsequent offensives carried out by Ukraine have a substantial impact on the military and strategic balances in the region, and they necessitate new tactical calculations on both sides. The general dynamics of the conflict and the military techniques that will be employed in the future will be significantly influenced by these developments, which are among the main elements. Thank you for following us.